Welcome to the Social Your Sales podcast. Social has changed the B2B and professional services sales landscape forever. We are here to help you navigate what you need to know and how to execute these new strategies. Whether you are a sales leader, individual producer, or a member of the C-suite looking for answers, this is the podcast for you. Now here are your hosts, Brandon and Eric.
Everyone, welcome to episode 16 of Social Your Sales. I am Brandon Lee, your host, and today's guest, unfortunately we had a guest that got sick and wasn't able to attend, and quickly filled in with my DLA Ignite partner, Timothy Hughes. Y'all may know him. He was on our podcast before. In fact, I think he was episode 1, and so he's our first guest to be a repeat guest. Look, Timothy Hughes is a brilliant, innovative thinker around social. And, he uses the term social selling because he wrote the book called Social Selling. He also wrote a book called Smarketing. And today's conversation revolved around the term revops. And he wrote a really awesome piece today about revops and social selling for predictable revenue success. And if you're at all curious around what revops is, what it isn't, how social selling could fit, if you were, tasked inside of a team of becoming, leading or becoming part of a RevOps team, this is a good conversation for you. And one of the highlights, I think, is just Tim's grasp of the dynamics inside large teams like that. He came out of years with Oracle and understands the dynamics that take place between the marketing team, the demand gen team, the sales team, the BDRs, the SDRs, and all along, and how those dynamics can stifle success within companies. And so those are my highlights of the conversation. I think you're going to really enjoy it. I always enjoy listening to Tim. So this is episode 16 with Timothy Hughes, and we're talking about RevOps. Thanks for joining us at Social Your Sales. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode, and I believe we are episode 16 of Social Your Sales podcast. And my guest today is who's quickly become a good friend of mine. We spent enough time on Zooms together. Mr. Timothy Hughes, who is the founder and a partner with DLA Ignite. Welcome, Tim. Welcome to Social Your Sales.
Thanks, Brandon. Love being here. Love the energy. It's looking forward to it.
And you are our first repeat guest because you were one of our first guests. And in full transparency, everybody, I would have Tim on every episode if it didn't bore all of us by having the same guest all the time. Not that you're boring, Tim, but we had somebody that got sick and they weren't able to come in, and Tim was gracious enough to say, I will be glad to fill in, especially because Tim wrote a really, really awesome article today, and I wanted to have that conversation. So, Tim, we're going to talk about RevOps.
Yes, I'm excited.
What the heck is RevOps? It's another new term.
I know. What is it? What on earth is RevOps? RevOps or revenue operations is a way of bringing every single part of the organization that deals with revenue under one leadership and under one strategy. Because if you think about what's happened in the modern, certainly in the SaaS world in tech, you've got marketing, you've got business development, you've got demand generation, you've got SDRs, you've got BDRs, you've got AEs, you've got account managers, you've got salespeople. You've also got renewal sales, you've got customer success. All of these people can be going off and doing things in different directions, where ultimately what you want in the organization is they're all pulling or rowing in the same direction, which is generating revenue for the business.
That sounds like a lot. There's a lot of people involved.
It is a lot. Now, I've worked for organizations where the renewals part of the SaaS business didn't report into us as a sales team. And we were in a situation where they wouldn't share information. They said, "Oh, we can't share information about customers because of data privacy." It's like, And it's like, hello, like, do we not work for the same company? Oh yeah, well, we can't share that. So it's about, it's about getting rid of all those silos, getting rid of the complexity and the duplication, and bringing it all together.
So do you think with we call it revops and put it under a C-suite person, we're going to solve all these problems?
I think in most cases, I don't know if you know the term shuffling the deck chairs on the Titanic, but I think if you're going to carry on doing the same things that you were doing before and not make any changes, then I think that you're doomed to failure. This is a change program, and this is your opportunity to do things differently.
Yeah.
I think this has also come about because of, if I can use a sporting analogy, the only way that you're ever going to get to the top table, to the top of any league, whether it's baseball or football or soccer or whatever it is, you've got to win every game. And I think that what happened during the pandemic was that there was a realization that there wasn't as much business around. So what we needed to do, we had to win every single deal. It wasn't, before the pandemic, we could lose a few, it didn't really matter. But during the pandemic, we've had to win everything. So if you're a small business, you got to win every deal against the big people, and if you're a big corporate, you've got to win all the deals against the disruptors and the small people. Mm-hmm. So this isn't just a big company thing or a small company thing. You've got to make sure that you're focused and you're focused on everything to do with RevOps. But this is your chance to embrace the new ways of selling and embrace digital and social.
So before we jump into RevOps and social as a framework for predictable revenue, which is what your article was about, what is it going to take for this to work for companies, do you think? By putting all these activities under one umbrella, there's a lot of pressure. There's so much change. And I agree with you, as you know, that, now is a time, there's such a massive shift in the way buyers buy and the way things are getting done, and new technology and a global marketplace, that it's a time that I believe most companies need to take a big step back in order to, you got to move slow to go fast mindset. You got to take a big step back and go, okay, the things that we've done in the past may not work, probably won't work in some cases, but they may not work the way that we need them to moving forward. We need to take a look at new ways of doing it. I see this RevOps as a way to do that, but what is it really going to take for companies to use this opportunity to name something differently to really make significant change?
I think I totally agree with you, Brandon, that this is the opportunity, and I know that I'm biased because I run a company that helps businesses with social, but I'm currently writing a piece at the moment just before I came on here. We've been running the business now since 2016. We've got a whole load of customers that are doing this. This isn't new.
Right.
And this isn't this isn't the future. This is the now. And I know that there's some people out there that are hardened, they're the hardened cold callers and emailers. Great, but there has to be an understanding that things have changed. We know that the mobile phone has changed things, the internet. We know that social, and even if, and there's nothing wrong with not knowing about it right now. But what's wrong is not knowing about it in a year's time.
Right.
What leaders have to do is that they may say, I don't understand this. I don't get this social thing. I'm not really on social, but other people are, and I need to understand it as a leader.
Right.
I mean, I can give lots and lots of very boring examples of where things have changed in my life during my career. Right from actually having to use a PC for the first time, where you suddenly realize that things had changed and you had to move with it. And that's what leaders have actually got to look at from this perspective. And RevOps really gives you an opportunity to sit back and think, as you said. And first and foremost, I think you need a strategy. because bringing all of those people together, you've got, marketing has a different set of objectives because it will be very brand focused. Sales has a different set of objectives because it's about closing deals. And it's about bringing all of those things together. I would bring all of those people together into one room, all the representatives from those teams, and come up with a strategy, because the people that actually know how this will work are those people that are doing the work at the coalface. And I know that I'm biased, but I would also say this is the time to get outside help. Right. You told a great story the other day on a other podcast that we do, which is when you moved from California to Atlanta, and you didn't know the area, you didn't know where to live, you didn't know about the schools, and what you did was that you rented a house for a year, because what you wanted to do was actually find out where the best place to live. And I think it's kind of that, it's that time where, because we don't know, what we need to do is actually rent in some expertise, suck their knowledge out, and then maybe get rid of them in a year, but bring that in and get them to get that outside expertise to come in and help us, because this change has to be, it is a fundamental change, and we need outside support to do that.
Yeah, I think that is such a great, and I know that, it is self-serving a bit for both of us, but for those listening out there, I mean, it really is that time. Rent the expertise for a year. Maybe it's even 6 months. And then along those lines, I think it's beta test things. Like when, excuse me, when cell phones first came out, we didn't go out and buy cell phones for the entire team.
No.
Right? We used it a little bit and thought, oh, where's the advantages? Oh, we can do this. Okay, it's time to get more phones for these people.
And that's actually a really good metaphor, because of the company that I worked at, we were selling payroll personnel software. And what they did was that they got mobile phones for the C-suite. And the C-suite never went out anywhere. So what happened was that they said, well, we never use these mobile phones. They're a waste of time. So we didn't invest in them. So I was still there as a salesperson, basically still going to what you call it pay phones, I think, where you basically put money in and still making calls, ringing back to the office, asking if there's any messages. And that's where they didn't understand they didn't understand the problem, and they didn't understand the solution.
Yeah, that's really good. And we do hear that a lot of people that say, oh, well, either, I don't use social. And it's like, well, that doesn't mean it's not an effective tool. I don't drive a Ferrari, but I hear it's a really great car, and people that drive it and know how to drive it have a lot of fun with it. But the other, I had another question in there for you, Tim, and I forgot it. So let's transition into revops with social selling as a predictable revenue framework. A lot of times, and you guys, you and our DLA team, of which I'm a partner with Tim on, you guys always laugh at me when I go social media, because I just think that it's the way people think about social media or social selling. They either go, oh yeah, it's social media, or they go to, oh yeah, social selling, we tried it, it didn't work. You're talking about something totally different.
Yeah, so a lot of people come to me and say, we tried social media, it didn't work. And I say, let me guess. You went to the salespeople, they all sat with their arms folded and said, you can't teach me anything. They said, yeah, that's exactly what happened. I said, well, that's exactly what my experience was when I was at Oracle, was that six years ago? And that's how we've built our business. We've built our business going into organizations and getting the salespeople to go, you mean, wow, can I do that? Get conversations with people. Once we start getting people within the team seeing the difference, what happens is that the shoulders start relaxing and they actually get into it. Mm-hmm. The other thing is that you raised about social media is that you've got far more measures than you had in the analog days. Classic example, with cold calling, you phoned your mother or you phoned the speaking clock or stuff like that to get your calls in. What you're able to do with digital is you're actually able to get far more leading indicators about what's going on with the sales team and who's contributing and how much are they contributing. Mm. So this is before you get to the CRM. So you're able to actually measure things early on in terms of doing all of the things they need to actually get the conversations, to get the meetings, to get the proposals, to get or whatever your deal sequence is, you're able to measure those things. So senior leaders should be now asking the question, how much business are we generating through social media? And that figure shouldn't be, well, shouldn't be so many likes or we get so many impressions. That should be a figure in dollars.
Right.
A business should know how much they're generating in dollars from social media. And that can be measured from the salesperson touching the keyboard all the way through the CRM to it coming out the other end and knowing how many wins you've got.
Can you break that down into what you mean by that for people? Because I really do think that, like, I understand what you mean, and we talk about this all the time, but I know that there's a lot of conversations that I walk into and I say, we can measure everything, and we're going to capture all these social KPIs and attribute it to opportunities and wins and closes, and you're going to see where it is. And they go, because there's still this big disconnect between that we could actually measure anything that you do in social media. They still have this, yeah, it's a great place. We go post things, but we don't know what it's doing. And that's a complete fallacy.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we can measure everything. So, what we teach people to do first and foremost is that you need to have a profile. That this is a profile on social media, that when your buyer sees it, they think that you're a person that can help them, because we all of us hate having salespeople coming to us and basically pitching to us. Mm-hmm. And that's the dichotomy that we're in. We're in the sales business, but we know that buyers don't like this. So I've actually just got off a call with one of our clients, and the leading marketer has said, she works in ABM. She said, I've just had enough of marketing agencies basically coming and pitching to me. And what she was doing was that she was using this as an example. So the AEs on there can actually understand that even though they're being told that they need to pitch, that actually if you stop selling, you actually will sell more. I know that sounds disingenuous, but it's actually true. We all hate, I don't take cold calls. Why? Because I don't want some manipulative, we never get up in the morning and say, I want to talk to a manipulative salesperson. So what we're able to do is that we're able to go onto social media. We have a great profile. The client is intrigued. They understand that we can help them because we don't want to be just another salesperson. Then what we're able to do is that what we're trying to do as a salesperson is grow our influence. So we will have a digital territory. So we connect the people that our prospects, our customers, the people of influence within within our particular market sector. And what we're doing is that we as we connect to them is not to pitch, but to actually start a conversation. And this is really, really key, because what we're trying to do and what people misunderstand with social is that this is about conversations, not about pitching. You'll find if you have a conversation with a person, you will be able to qualify the people in and out faster. And what you're able to do is actually take them through your deal sequence a lot quicker, because they'll be willing to do it. Mm-hmm. We have client. We've got a situation. We have a it's in public record. So Namos, which is an Oracle reseller, I did an interview podcast with their CEO, and he says on it about 19 minutes into the 20-minute podcast, we had a client. They saw us on social media. They said they walked towards the salesperson and said, I think you can help me. Mm-hmm. Can you help me? There was a discussion, and they closed a $2.5 million deal. Now, this is transformation. This is not just about salespeople moving out and prospecting, but it's about people understanding that you can help them, and then you using your everyday skills that we've had for all these years, which is closing. But how do we measure that? We can measure that through each of the different stages. So we know by going on and looking at a person's profile about whether it's bar-centric or not. We know from evidence about whether people are walking towards them. We can measure the amount of connection requests that they make It used to be up until last week you could just do 100 on LinkedIn. That's just opened up now. So I think we've experimented with 200. It could be more, but that's your opportunity to have at least 200 conversations with people, and you can measure all of that.
Yeah, we can measure
the conversations you're having. You can measure the success of the conversations, and you can obviously coach people if they're not converting those connection requests into conversations, and those conversations ultimately into meetings. Now, not all of them will go, but you will certainly have ratios in terms of this is the number of connections we make, this is the number of conversations, this is the number of meetings, this is the number of proposals, and you'll have that measurement, and so you can see. So if a salesperson isn't making the connections, then they ain't going to make their number. So you can see this weeks or months down the is it up the line or down the line? In terms of, you don't have to wait to the fact that there's nothing in the CRM, or the fact that what you're doing is you're probing the stuff in the CRM and its hopes and dreams. You can see this from the activity that the salesperson is doing.
Social Your Sales. We'll be right back.
Is your sales team struggling to hit quota? Are your buyers ignoring your sales requests for conversations? The third tier of digital transformation is social. Is your team equipped to meet this challenge? This show is brought to you by FunnelAmplified. We help sales teams align their sales process with how modern buyers prefer to make their purchase decisions. FunnelAmplified is a social selling platform that drives new opportunities with your sales team, using proven social selling tactics to drive pipelines and hit quotas. With FunnelAmplified, it's quota achieved. To learn more about FunnelAmplified or start a free trial, please visit us at FunnelAmplified.com.
I think so often, in especially when you're a room full of, and we're talking about the revops teams now, and the beauty of having it under one person is that a lot of times you get into these conversations where you got representatives that fall under the CMO and some that fall under a CRO or a CGO or whatever other C that might be, and they all get in the same room. They can't really agree upon a lot, right? They still.
Yeah, so I think, and I think some of the terminology that we had in the past, I wrote a book about bringing sales and marketing teams together because there was a lot of talk about it. And nobody was actually doing it. So I wanted to write a book where there was a case study. We actually used a case study of a company we can't mention, but based on the people that wrote it, you can.
Yeah. Do you want to show your book there, and we'll plug it a little bit?
Yeah, I'm not here to sell, but it's marketing, how to achieve competitive. So that's about bringing a sales and marketing team together. And I think that what happens is that the first question that we got was, that's going to be a sales takeover of marketing, or a marketing takeover of sales. It's not. It's about bringing the organization together, because brand may be really, really important, but also leads are important. So how do we make sure that we're getting the right match? Yeah. But in the day of writing that, there was this. And what we had in corporate life was that we had an MQL, which is a marketing qualified lead, and an SQL, which is a sales qualified lead, because we would sit around the room and actually have a disagreement about what was a lead. And I think that common language was actually useful. But now what we're able to do is get a far more granular measurement on those leads as they actually track through the deal sequence. So marketing can actually say, we generated these leads and they were they were of this quality, rather than sales going, marketing doesn't generate anything, or marketing generated some leads and they were rubbish. Mm-hmm. And now what marketing are able to do is actually be front and center in terms of the lead creating process, and say, these are the measures, and this is in effect the quality, because we know what's going to happen because it's going to move through the sequence. And it's the same sequence that sales will follow in terms of picking up those leads and moving from marketing to sales, or just generating the lead themselves and then moving it ultimately into the CRM. And that's a great new way of RevOps, being able to track the whole of the process from, in effect, the first piece of connection that you have with the prospect, right through to, well, I guess, renewal and customer services, customer success.
Yeah, that's really good. I think what advice do you have, Tim, as organizations are shifting their internal structure, moving to a RevOps team, making a decision of who's going to lead it? What's your advice for them on how to approach and start building out a successful RevOps system that creates predictable income?
I think first and foremost, we're not talking about revolution. We're talking about evolution. This is not about throwing the baby out, with the bathwater, whatever. The business has to carry on, and there has to be things that you're doing right now which are successful that you need to carry on. It's the classic thing. You've got to build the plane as it's flying up, or build the plane as you jump off the cliff, or whatever the saying is. But the thing is what you need to do is start having a culture of experimentation. And one of those things that you can do to start experimenting is to actually start running a pilot, asking for volunteers and running a pilot of people to actually start the process of looking at social and digital. Just 10 people within the business across different disciplines or different teams, and run that as a measured pilot that you can actually look at and say, that works, or no, it doesn't work for us. Mm-hmm. But at least you've actually got a view of and an opinion of that, because you're going to get more and more pressure from the people from senior people at some point saying, what are you going to do and what are you going to do different?
Now, what could a leader expect if they did some sort of a proof of concept or beta group or pilot program? A lot of times I hear from people, it's like, oh yeah, social's great, but it takes way too long.
Yeah, I had a big argument with some people recently about that. This thing about social takes is rubbish. It's utter rubbish. Anybody who says that to you they don't understand what social selling is. The other thing that people keep saying, it's all about relationships. It's not about relationships. It's about conversations. Yes. Because I can connect with somebody on, for example, just before I came on here, I had a connection request from somebody who'd seen me comment on something on colleague of mine, Eric Doyle's post, and they said, because Eric, I'd like to be connected to you. And I'm immediately having a conversation with them. I don't know that person at all. Mm-hmm. But within 10 minutes, I'd read their profile. I see that they're a poet. And I can see what they stand for and stuff like that. And we're having a conversation. And that's the way that relationships work today. You get, it happens like this. If there's a connection, if there's something that you see on social media and you think, oh yeah, isn't it great that you're running the marathon? Oh, isn't that really brilliant? And immediately you have that commonality with people. Yeah. So this thing about social takes a long time. It's not. Yeah. Usually with our social selling program, within 3 weeks, they're seeing a return on the investment, because on the second session, when they're connecting to people, they should be getting meetings at that point. Yeah. So this is not where you have to wait. Our program's 12 weeks long. You don't have to wait until the 12th week. You can actually be getting it in the third week. So you're already getting a feel and a measure for whether you're getting success or not.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll share with you, Tim, and I think I can share this with everybody, especially when this publishes. But as you know, I have a customer that's come in with ActiveOps, and have a customer in there. We're finishing up into, we're coming into like the 6th week, almost the midway point. And coaching session yesterday, Zoom comes on. He's got a great big smile, and he says, "Brandon, I'm your biggest champion." And this is a gentleman who is, he's in his late 40s, early 50s, and early on he's like, I'm open to learning, but I'm skeptical. And the conversation revolved around a $2.1 million contract that went out about 15 minutes before we got on our coaching call. And it was something that stalled and he didn't know where it was going. And through his social presence and some of the posts that he had made and engagement that had taken place, it picked right back up. And he said the conversation changed totally because I was no longer a salesperson in their eyes. I was this human being who shared a story about biking through France. And that's how they reconnected and said, oh my gosh, I didn't know you're a biker and I'm a biker and da-da-da-da-da. And next thing you know, that whole deal that stalled, that he thought was dead, picked back up and a contract was out. And then he said, oh yeah, and by the way, I closed a deal last week for $300,000 that was a direct relation to everything that you taught me as well. I mean, it was just this and we're 6 weeks into a 12-week program.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Right.
I mean, we use this example. I mean, if anybody is interested in more information, we have a presentation that we give them. It's educational. It walks people through what can be achieved. And there's a particular slide where we use one of the team, Eric Doyle, and the fact that he put up a post, and off the back of that, he got 184 leads. 6 C-level meetings, 2 proposals, and 1 purchase order, and it only took him 10 minutes to do. Now, that's transformational. Right. Even if you got 1 C-level meeting and you rolled that out and scaled that across the whole of your sales team, that would fundamentally change your pipeline and your forecast.
Absolutely.
This is not pie in the sky. This is not something. This is not something new.
Right.
We've been doing this now since 2016.
Mm-hmm. And it's nothing new in that the process that we go through isn't new. We've been doing it for 20, 30 years. It's just the way it's applied in social has been done wrong for so many people. And they get to the point of saying it doesn't work. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, what happens is that we've always been, our sales and marketing is based on interrupt and broadcast. Cold calling, advertising, and email is all based on I interrupt you with a call or I interrupt you with an email, and what I do is pitch. And so what people do is that they think, well, that's how you sell. So what I'll do is I'll turn up on social, I'll interrupt you and I'll pitch. Now, you will get a response, and there'll be people saying, oh yes, I get a response. But what happens is that what you'll do very quickly is burn through your network. And Seth Godin had an article recently about how he was always getting asked to do things. And he said, of course, what you do, it's fine, isn't it? Just throwing mud at the wall and hoping it'll stick. But if you get if you get a 98% fail rate, that means you get 2 people 100 responding. But that also means you've actually annoyed 98 people within your network. Mm-hmm. And at some point, you're just going to burn through them.
Yep. Yeah. Excuse me. I had a message the other day that was obviously a automated message, and it said, "Hey, Brandon, as an owner of a marketing agency and da 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 da," and I was just like, and I was in a decent mood, I guess, and I replied and I said, "I don't own an agency," and then the response was, "Well, even if you owned a different type of company, this solution could be really good." And they just kept going on in a sales mode. And what I did is, I don't know if you've seen that graphic I use. It's the guy that holds up cardboard signs and he writes random stuff on it. There's one, and I don't know if he really did it or if someone photoshopped it, but either way, it's him standing up and says, "Stop pitching me your product." And so I just replied with the picture. And then unfollowed them and disconnected from them because it's just annoying. And to your point,
it is, and I think that people have to understand that they need to break away from this.
Right.
And it's not that I'm some sort of anti-sales person or that. It's not at all. Mm-hmm. But you will find that you will sell more when you stop selling. Right.
And again, I just want to reemphasize that we're not anti-sales people. We just want to help salespeople do it well to be more efficient.
Yeah. And so, how do people think that we sell?
Right.
We've never made a cold call. Never. We've never sent a spam email. We've never placed a dollar in advertising. And here we are, 6 years later, happily doing business because you don't have to do any of that. Right. I mean, I had a call with someone this afternoon where they said, so does this social selling work? And I said, so how do you think we got on this Zoom call? And they went, oh yeah.
Yeah.
It was through social, wasn't it? Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, I like the example that I think we both know. I think I met this gentleman through our online connection, and he shared the story with me that he started a company and he created a sales strategy as the CEO of a company and hired people, and he had a sales strategy that was around cold calls and cold emails. And meanwhile, as a CEO, he would get these phone calls and go, I'm not answering that. And, he was not answering any calls that he didn't know who they were from. And his spam filter was really high, and he was getting rid of all these unwanted emails. And when it dawned on him that he's like, as a CEO, I don't answer cold calls, and my spam filter gets rid of all the junk that I don't want to respond to that I didn't ask for. And yet I built an entire sales strategy around cold calls and cold emails. And he said it was my biggest failure ever as a business owner. It's like,
yeah, people sell but that's not how they buy.
Right.
And that's the problem. The whole thing needs to be
right.
As I said, we're not anti-sales. We're actually, if you take a breath and actually work on this stuff. I mean, as you said, that great story. People are amazed when they go, "Wow." I mean, you still have to work hard. This is I'm not saying that social selling is easy. Selling in any form is graft. You need to be able to graft and work hard. But the way that people are actually doing deals and doing big deals on social, it's people are making a lot of money.
Yeah. This gentleman, to finish that story for you, Tim, and for everyone else, he said he has a monitor up above, and then he has his laptop down here, and the monitor up above is his numbers and all the kind of company stuff that's going on. And this was his email and social media. And he goes, prior to you, Brandon, I always looked up here. I was always up here. He's like, and now what I realize, I spend most of my time right here because this is where conversations are happening, and I'm moving those into Zoom calls. And I don't worry about that up there because my numbers are coming in from here, and I know it's going to affect up there. And he's like, I just completely shifted. And I think that is the message that I want to get across to people around social selling. And especially as we talk about with revops, and making it more predictable when most people think, oh, social is great, but you can't measure anything. So Tim, can you end us in our time with speaking to a CRO or a CGO, whoever that person is, that just, they're walking into this now, responsible for revops. What advice or what would you share with them to really take a look at her as a starting point when it comes to social as a predictable platform for revenue creation?
Great question. I think the strategy they need, first and foremost. I think that you need to have a culture of experimentation. There needs to be a need to actually do a sort of pilot and look at things. And I think you need to have the governance in place, and you need to have the measures in place. And this is RevOps is new. You need to have new governance, and you need to have new measures. And just taking the old departments, slamming them together, and putting a new title on the top ain't going to cut it.
Yeah, and that's my biggest fear for a lot of companies is that it's they're going to put lipstick on a pig.
Yeah. It will be lipstick on a pig. Yeah. And there's lots of things you can do. You can get rid of duplication. You've got elements of efficiency and effectiveness, and you can bring those together. Now, you don't need to bring those and make those decisions from day one. It will come to you. But if you get your strategy, you get your measures, and you get your governance in place, and you start running pilots, you will find that the form of it and the framework of it will in effect take on itself, and you'll see where the duplication is, and you'll see where you need to put the effort, and where you may need to take your foot off the gas.
Absolutely, that's really good. Well, I want to invite everybody to come and join Tim and I as we Friday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern What time is that UK time, Tim, on digital
That's
download?
2:00 in the afternoon.
2 in the
time.
afternoon, 1400 UK time. As I always appreciate when Tim uses the word soccer when he talks to me. And even though I tend to use the word...
I'm talking American when I use the word soccer.
That's right. You use soccer and you convert things to 2 p.m. instead of 1400. So I try to reciprocate and send it back there. But every Friday at 1400, 9 a.m. Eastern, we have the digital download where we have conversations a lot like this with our other partners, your partner in DLA, Adam, and Eric Doyle, and Lenwood, and Thomas, and they all join us, and we have conversations around just like this. But outside of that, Tim, please take the opportunity to let everybody know where they can find you and find your social selling book and your marketing book.
Yes, so you can find me on LinkedIn as Timothy or Tim Hughes.
Timothy.
My social selling book is that Social Selling Techniques to Influence Buyers and Changemakers. It's available on Amazon worldwide. Marketing is also available on Amazon worldwide. And the best place to get me is on LinkedIn.
And he responds very quickly. Absolutely.
I live in LinkedIn.
You live in it. Absolutely. Well, everybody, hey, thank you so much for another episode of Social Your Sales. And I got to look at my notes. This is episode 16. And my guest is my friend and my partner in DLA, Timothy Hughes, who is also an amazing top voice in social selling around the world. And if you don't believe me, go look at Twitter. And he will be everywhere. So, hey, thank you so much. I'm Brandon Lee again. It's another wonderful episode of Social Your Sales, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you for listening to the Social Your Sales podcast. If you enjoyed this show, please share it with your friends. Social is meant to be social, and sharing is a great way for us to meet you and get to know you. Click on share and tag us at FunnelAmplified or just use #SocialYourSales.